Mets and the Jets.
Not ideal.
At least we got teams. What up,
Wow,
South
is that a
Dakota?
South Dakota dash?
What up,
Jesus.
South Dakota? What's up, friends? PGA DFS live before lock, coming to you live. That's what we do here at Awesemo.com. We are ready to dive into the CJ Cup, all things PGA golf tonight. I am Ben Rasa. I am joined by my good friend and co-host Eric Lindquist. There's a million sports, baseball playoffs, little night off on the mound, but how you living? Excited for NBA? Excited for golf?
Yeah, excited for NHL tonight too as well.
Yeah.
It's the only show in town here tonight. We had no baseball. Houston decided to just obliterate Chicago and, move on with their day. We've got Dodgers game 5. I don't know why those aren't 7-game series, but I digress. That's a different show. Very excited about this golf tournament. I'm actually not that excited about it, but I'm going to find reasons to be excited about it because CJ Cup, we get to watch some golfers that just came off the Ryder Cup. That's going to be a fun narrative to kind of draw some stuff off of. I just wish I knew more about this golf course, man.
A lot of unknowns, there's no doubt, but we're going to work through it together. That's what we do on this show. We're going to try to dig up some value because you know what? There's no doubt that it's not the biggest time of the year for golf, but that doesn't mean there's not money to be made. There's edges to be had. And yes, NHL, I'll be talking a little NHL later in the show. We've got a great promo for you guys. Jake Hari, the entire NHL team does a great job here at Awesemo. They got you covered. But as we do always, let's start with some weather. Let's start with some withdrawals, or let's not, because I don't know if there's a real lot to talk about. That we stay in Vegas from last week. We only got like 80 guys, and it looks like everyone is good to go.
Yeah, Thursday, 74 degrees, 7-mile-per-hour wind high, 75 degrees on Friday, 10-mile-per-hour wind high. It's so negligible. It's a no-cut event. So you're going to get staggered Thursday, Friday, but then everybody's still going to be playing Saturday, Sunday. I don't see wind playing any kind of a factor whatsoever. It's going to be the same. They're playing in a snow globe. It's the same thing as last week.
No doubt. Same thing as last week. I think the conditions will be favorable to scoring. We're going to dive into the course in due time. It's just a little different. But before I do, I want to say, of course, as I always do, our friends at Monkey Knife Fight sponsoring the show tonight. They're player prop based contests. They're super easy to play, not a huge time commitment. They're a little different than some of the typical DFS sites. So if you want to play PGA, if you want to play NBA in a couple of days, certainly the NFL, UFC, esports, soccer, any sport that you want, they're going to have over there. Get started. Go to monkeyknifefight.com. Choose which games you want to play, your contest type, your buy-in level, and even better, when you do this, deposit up to $100, and you're going to get that promo code. Use it. Awesemo. Instant first match deposit bonus of up to that $100. No reason not to do it, Eric. We've talked about this each and every week over on Monkey Knife Fight. They've got kind of some different things that you can break down. They've got the more or less over-under types where it's like, okay, this week, Rory, over under 109.5 points, in terms of fantasy points. I like that. I think he's going to score. You can go over. You've got rapid fire where you're going one golfer versus another. I know you're very well versed with this site and with these formats. How do you feel about the different formats? Is there one that you kind of go to? I always wanted to ask you that. Do you gravitate towards one specifically?
I kind of like going to the more or less for some of the birdie stuff, mainly because everything is basically saying we want a ton of fantasy points. We want a bunch of eagles. We want a bunch of birdies. I think the more or less where you can actually short some players and short their fantasy production, I think that always kind of looks a little bit more appealing for me. Mainly because, the fantasy point, the way that it kind of pays out, it's super, super simple. 5 points for an eagle, 3 points for a birdie, 1 point for a par. Pretty easy to kind of do that math time and time again here. Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, you've got them for like a more or less first thing off the gate. I enjoy going to those kind of game types where I get those options and I can do the head-to-head stuff, but they kind of force you into the same exact head-to-heads. I really do like the more or less game type the most.
Yeah, I think it's pretty easy to project. You're really honing in on certain guys, and it's just a little different. And I always think different is good because not as many people are adapted to the format. If you've uncovered an edge, it's probably relatively undiscovered across the industry. So definitely use that promo code. Definitely check out Monkey Knife Fight. But no matter where you're playing this week, there are certain things that I think we need to dig into. And I think the first one would be the course. So the CJ Cup gets invented and it's played in Jeju Island, Nine Bridges. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Nine Bridges is a sick golf course. I really like that place.
And that is in Korea.
Yes, it is.
So, okay, we've got that. Then Well, we get a pandemic. So we're going to move it to Shadow Creek, a very famous course in Las Vegas. Okay, all good. I heard it was in Vegas this week. I was very excited because I like Shadow Creek. Well, it's not at Shadow Creek. We move on to a new course, the Summit course, the Summit Club, rather, is what it's called. It is a par 72. It's around 7,400 yards. I don't know, man. So we got a completely blank slate. So let's just dig into it. You and me, we've got a new course. What do we do? What do you say?
So Tom Fazio, it's 7,400 yards, and that's kind of the quick gist of it. So same designer that you have for Shadow Creek, but God, it looks as though this golf course. So I go on Google Earth. Whenever I get ready for golf tournaments myself, I always go to Google Earth and I try to map out what it looks like. If there's any hazards, if it looks like it's a cut shot or a draw shot, you can kind of prepare. I mean, obviously it's much, much more nuanced than that, of course, but that is the best way to go through it. I'm going through some of these tee shots. I don't see any kind of resistance. Shadow Creek at least makes you think. I've played out there, I've played at Summerlin. It's like one of those places that makes sense where you have to kind of thread the needle at Shadow Creek on a couple tee shots. I don't see a single tee shot that's intimidating on this entire golf course whatsoever. How about you?
It seems pretty generous. Again, I feel like to attract, and this is maybe more digging too much into the psychology of it, but I do feel during the swing season that they really try to entice some of these players with either really nice venues in terms of physical location or types of setup of these courses. I really don't think they're going to say, come out for a torture chamber for 4 days. That's how we're going to bring in Dustin Johnson and Rory and guys like that. It seems very, very generous. The rough doesn't seem overbearing. And I honestly don't know exactly how the course is going to defend itself, particularly with no wins. So is there anything you see? It looks like a pure ball striker course. And I think with par fives, plentiful, we're going to see some guys really take it apart.
Again, I've been trying to figure out more about this golf course as much as I humanly can. I've been scouring Twitter, seeing if anybody posted anything, people walking out on the grounds, anything like that. The only other thing that I'm drawing is that it's at 3,000 feet. So it's actually elevated a little bit up into the mountains. So it's not like Wynn, which is another Tom Fazio golf course that he designed. Played out there. You have Shadow Creek, of course, but this one has actually got a little bit of elevation. So some of the shorter hitters might actually not be at as much of a detriment either. I mean, everybody's going to have short clubs in their hand. Everybody's going to be able to make a bunch of birdies. It's going to be an iron fest. It's going to be a putting fest. At least that's the way that I'm looking at it. I think anybody who their major strength is off the tee, we got to give them a downgrade just because it doesn't look like it's that difficult.
So when you see that, because this is always, we see this sometimes with putting greens, and now we're talking about it a little off the tee. When you say not difficult, does that mean that guys who struggle off the tee now are brought up and it levels the playing field? Or do you say that just means guys, the elite drivers of the world, the Hovlands, the Rorys, that they can be so aggressive. They can be even more aggressive and really shorten these holes because they know even if they're offline, they can work in and out of trouble.
Yeah, that's another way of looking at it. I mean, it's never, we have said this a million times on shows together, where it's never a bad thing to hit the ball further. I can't ever think of a time, maybe just because it spins more in that regard and your mishits are going to be more amplified. But yeah, everybody's going to have short clubs. It's really not going to be something to be looking at too much here. I don't know, a guy like DJ, I don't want to give him a bump up because, he's going to hit it further than everybody else. I mean, I just don't see driving distance or anything like that regard mattering that much. But yeah, I suppose you could still find something to draw there. I mean, there's that drivable par 4 that exists on the back nine. They're going to have a multiple different, it looks like they have 3 different tee allocations there. It's 360 yards, but it looks like they're going to play it up 2 of the days. So it could be up to like 315, 320. But that's still kind of a gettable number for everybody in the field.
Yeah, especially in Vegas. Like it's
at 3,000 feet in above sea level. So
yeah, and it's hot. It's just a good and to that note, friend of the show, Mike Kim was saying Morikawa is a member here. A lot of guys got Vegas ties. A lot of guys live out there, so you're going to see some of that throughout the week. I do want to ask you before we get to the non-cut format. Do you care if your guy played last week, got some reps in Vegas? Is that something that you look at, or you just say, you know what, at the same time, it's swing season, you're going to have guys coming in cold, and I just have to live with that?
Yeah, guys are going to come in cold, and they're going to play well, too. And then there's going to be guys who come in and play poorly, and we're going to draw those narratives based on how they play. I will say it is probably not the worst thing ever that we got to see a bunch of competitive rounds from certain people. I definitely feel better knowing that Louis is at least out there playing golf and he didn't withdraw. So if you want to like talk about something to pull, like there's that. He started off hot, 4 rounds underneath 70. I think stuff like that is a positive to draw on. My boy Sam Burns put himself in contention again until he just shot 1 over on Sunday. And I still can't believe that round of golf. I saw every shot. I mean, they barely played him on Sunday. They didn't have to show many of his shots, but I mean, top 15 still there. There's a number of things that we can still draw from it. Sung JM, I'm sure, will get more attention than he probably would have had he not come off of a win. So there's still things that are important that happened last week. I'm just not factoring it in like nearly as much as what I think the field might.
Yeah, it's funny. It's one of these things. If they played and they got some reps, great. But if they played and they were terrible, particularly if they're a good player, I'm not like Scotty Scheffler. He didn't have it. He did not play well. I'm not like, oh, can't use him. And then on the same token, you've got someone like Mark Leishman. He seems really in form in this swing season, a 4th and a 3rd. I get it, but it does elevate the price tag, elevate the interest. Now,
see,
our friend,
I wish it does it really. He's somebody that I just don't think is getting any attention. And I think at 6%, I mean, not to just specify him, we're going to go down the list like we normally do, but it is shocking to me in the swing season and specifically this time of year, people aren't paying attention. There's NFL going on, NHL's coming back, we've got MLB playoffs going, we've got NBA coming back next Tuesday. Guys like Mark Leishman are actually under the radar because it's not just guys like me and you who do this for a living and we talk it and we see it and we're paying attention. People in chat who are actively trying to be solid DFS players. Like I'm telling you right now, these are the times you can play a Mark Leishman without reckless abandon and know that you're probably getting it in good with a guy who's in form. And in a regular year, like if this happened in April, he would be 15% owned.
I agree with part of that. I'll say this, though. There's no doubt that the price is impacted. Like if Mark Leishman had no reps coming off what was a pretty bad 2020, he would not be 8,600 in this field. So I get it. I think the price is holding down the ownership. And it's a good point. Your point is well taken because I totally agree with that. Friend of the show, could the non-cut play in Kevin Stadler's favor? Well, I'll tell you this much. I don't know if he has the stamina to play he hasn't had to play 4 rounds of golf in a very long time. He's also not invited to these type of tournaments. So it's really a double-edged sword, but we appreciate the support as always, my man. Let's talk about it. There's only 80 guys. It's not a normal event. We've seen this a million times, but if you are new to DFS golf, traditionally we got usually 155, 145, top 65 and ties, move on after the 36-hole cut. This week, every guy is guaranteed 4 rounds, no matter how good or bad you play. So let me ask you right off the top, do you like non-cuts? Do you change up your strategy? What do you do when you see these WGCs or just non-cut events?
No, non-cut events are for people who are weak-minded, who don't enjoy the variance of cuts. I love the variance of cuts. I will say it's very nice if you're somebody playing in the no-cut event and you're guaranteed a paycheck no matter how you play. There's no real repercussions for anything. That must be a nice feeling. But for everybody else here, it definitely groups it. And Jason talked about it yesterday. I think it's a really sharp point, is that from 50th to 20th, it really comes down more to birdie making than it does anything else. And so targeting guys who make a lot of birdies more so than, oh, I think he's going to play well, because a 25th isn't going to do anything for you unless he makes bunches of birdies and, you know, ends up having it sided out by a bunch of doubles here in that regard. But there's just not much separation that you get at those ranges. It really comes down to how you pick that top end 1 through 6 more. Maybe that's probably why I don't enjoy it as much, but how about yourself?
So it certainly lends itself to placement points being mitigated, particularly at Birdie Fest. Because what happens, I just want to dig into this because we've got some time tonight. We don't have that many players. So when you're looking at scoring, the winner of the golf tournament gets 30. I'm talking about DraftKings, 30 points. Second is 20 points. Third is 18. Fourth is 16, blah, blah, blah. Ninth is 8 points. So if you come in ninth, you get 8 points. That is the equivalent of 2.5, 2 and change birdies. So if you come in ninth, you start with a 2.5 birdie lead over the guy that comes outside the top 50. There's a very real chance that someone outside the top 50 could have more birdies than that guy and outscore him. So I just want to show, unless you're really at the top, it's about raw points. You'll take a triple bogey for a birdie streak any day of the week in this type of format because you don't have to worry about where your guy is after 36 holes. So I think naturally what it does, and Jay was just talking about this in our chat, I think more people are apt to go, studs and duds, be really aggressive and take some flyers on the bottom because they know my guy doesn't even need to play that good. He just needs to score. And I know that's always the case to an extent, but in a traditional cut, you may not have the opportunity to get those next 2 rounds. And I think that's the biggest difference, of course.
Yep. It's gigantic. And, I think that all of that is sharp. Also for this golf tournament, and we saw last week as well, 4 rounds under 70 does a lot for you as well. It's kind of a sneaky little spot as well. It's impossible to predict. I think at this point you're bound to maybe have one round that isn't nearly as good, but that's another facet where, 469s goes a lot further than 67, 67, 70, 68. So that'll definitely be another facet of this golf tournament.
And just, a pro tip in life, if you get into the hunt, and I hope that you do, make sure you calculate that because I've had many a Sundays where I've quote unquote locked something up and I did not realize that people were about to get 5-point bonuses for that under 70 bonus. Those make a big difference. You can't predict
spent that money before you had it.
Yeah, no, that's a terrible feeling. We're just like,
you went down to the ponies and you're like, oh God.
Ponies. I had a horse at Keeneland today I cannot believe this horse could not get there. Unbelievable.
Tell me about it. We have time.
We have very 80 golf. 24 to 1 too. McLovin was his name, second race. People go watch the replay of that. This horse came from the clouds. Anyway,
yeah.
When you look at this, the thing I want to ask you about before we dive into the players, when you're looking, and yes, there is an element, Mike just said this, if you're outside the top 50, obviously you're not playing as well. That's true. But clean scorecards are not that important, to be honest. Erratic play really can up the variance. If a course is really dangerous, it helps even more because you can see guys make huge numbers. I don't think we're going to see that here in particular, but it is just something to keep in mind. But the thing I wanted to ask you, and it kind of leads us in to this top tier, we have seen some of these players, in recent weeks, but most of the very top, we have not because they were in the Ryder Cup. So what do you do with those guys? Do you even remotely care what they did in the Ryder Cup?
No. Okay. The more we talked through it yesterday, again, it's like DJ. And we just start with DJ. If there was no Ryder Cup, what planet are we on where DJ is the 10-1 favorite in this golf tournament?
I don't know. I mean, I make Aaron Wise the favorite in every tournament. So
well, you're also wildly psychotic with that guy.
That's true. He's going to be popular this week.
Putting with brooms. So that'll be enjoyable to watch. It's like a chimney sweep. It's like Mary Poppins 3. So enjoy that with Aaron Wise. 3, because there was a second one.
I didn't know there was a sequel. I missed that.
What's her face? Absolute smoke show. John Krasinski's wife, way more famous than John Krasinski. Emily Blunt. There we go. Found it. Enjoyed it. She played Mary Poppins like 2-3 years ago or something. I digress. Dustin Johnson would not be 10-1 favorite here in this spot whatsoever, because there was nothing to really kind of draw from in his previous form here. It just had been a while since we saw him really at the height of his powers. We sure didn't see it, towards until the BMW Championship, really towards the tail end of the season. Maybe that's what it is. He put together 2 decent enough outings to finish out the season, and then he played the Ryder Cup well. Maybe that's kind of what we're drawing on, is that he's just kind of starting to climb the mountain back up to the top again. But I'm just not seeing how he's 10-1 here. I don't get it. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So Xander Schauffele, I understand a lot more why he's 12-1, and Justin Thomas as well being 12-1, but DJ 10-1, that's just going to be a strict fade for me.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly in the betting market, I think that's kind of ridiculous. And it's not to say, I think we both know and acknowledge that Dustin Johnson guy can turn it on. And if he's ready to go, he could dismantle the field. But really, we haven't seen much. And in particular, and I know it's hard to extract things from late August, but late in the season, he really was off with his irons. He had lost in 3 straight events. He was gaining a ton with the putter, and that was helping him. But I think DJ's the type of guy, more often than not, he's here to get some reps. I don't think that he's going to be at the height of his powers. And I would look, to other people, A, for salary relief, and B, just because I simply like them better. And it's starting with the guy right below him. I do think that Justin Thomas, we've seen him time and time again, He's a double winner of WGCs. He's taken apart some really easy courses in his time. What's not to like with him? I know it's been a pain point with his putter throughout the year in 2021 season. Can you buy, I don't want to say buy low on him, but do you think he can come out and really sustain and get his season started on a huge foot here?
Well, he's my highest owned golfer, so
that's good.
So that would be good. I have one reason for optimism for you, Ben Rasa. His name is Jim Bones Mackay.
You think that matters?
I think it's huge. I think it's gigantic, actually. So I brought it up yesterday, and I'm very, very interested to see what happens. We have one tournament, one win underneath Jim Bones Mackay for Justin Thomas. His putter has been the bugaboo. 65th in the last 50 rounds amongst this field in putting. That's not getting it done. Everything else, strokes gained approach, 3rd, around the green, 27th. Terms of DK points, still 7th. Ball striking overall, 5th. Everything else, he's the most well-rounded golfer in this field, so long as his putter is competent. And I think if there's one thing that I would trust a caddy to kind of be able to do, a guy who has 30 years of experience caddying for the number 2 player in the world, we're talking about a guy who I think might be able to make a difference, or at least trick him into thinking that he can make a difference for Justin Thomas, because sometimes it just looks like Justin Thomas is out there by himself, beating the crap out of himself, saying terrible things in Hawaii, freaking out about his putter, kicking stuff, having a bad temper. I think Jim Mackay might be able to just right the ship in a way where, he's not a normal caddy. 99.9% of the time, I wouldn't look at a caddy, but I feel like this could be the exception, and you want to probably buy in now. Because if that putter flips, you're just in a lot of trouble not playing Justin Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's kind of just the situation of, I really didn't think it was as bad as other people did to close the season. Yes, the results weren't there at times, but when you're losing 4, 5, 6, 8 strokes putting, you're just not going to be able to be competitive. And I do think that this is still a prolific guy, a winner. He won the Players last year. I know it wasn't a great season for him, but we know he can do it. He's uniquely built to score. He's a great, great DK scorer. We've seen that time and time again, even when he doesn't have it. And I do like him, but you are competing against DJ Morikawa. Xander makes sense. Let's talk about Spieth and Rory, though. They're at the bottom of the 10K range. Obviously, different types of players. Spieth is going to do it with the putter and around the green. Rory, in theory, is going to do it off the tee. And I mean, he's not a bad putter by any stretch, but at the same time, it's mostly take apart a course. So where do you lean between them, or either of them priorities for you?
This will be the first time, and I think I don't know, I've been playing DFS for 7 years. This will be the first time I can ever remember in PGA DFS history that I play more Jordan Spieth than Rory McIlroy in the same golf tournament. I don't think it's ever happened. I don't think I've ever figured out. Again, I don't really know. Jordan Spieth, if there's anything to draw from his Ryder Cup, he didn't putt well, and he hit the ball for all intents and purposes. What you can tell from an alternate shot format with a lot of people around, hit the ball really well with his irons. And that's kind of been his trend for this entire season, is that he got really hot in the summer with his irons. That definitely propelled him, because we know that short game and his putting specifically can be ridiculous. 7.1 strokes gained at the Charles Schwab, 5.7 at the Valero in his W there earlier this season. Went on that hot streak there to start off the season at the Waste Management, AT&T. There's a number of times with him where it just comes down to being good with the irons. And those are kind of what tapered off towards the end of the season for him. I mean, he lost 6 shots with the approach at the Tour Championship. That's such an outlier for him. I'm willing to kind of write that one off. And it feels like he might be the kind of guy that at under 12%, there's just I never play him. So it's not like I've ever gotten him wrong or right. It's just, I kind of live with the result of not being there, but coming off of a really poor showing in the Tour playoffs, I think Jordan Spieth is a guy that I'd much rather just play as opposed to Rory, who I'm expecting to be twice as owned.
I agree with that part. I do think that Rory will be more popular. And listen, Spieth clearly has corrected a lot of it. He wore down or maybe lost something late in the season, but I don't really look at the FedEx Cup as an extension of what we're going to see here in a lot of regards. Maybe some of it will mirror, but all in all, I'm with you. I certainly, I like Rory a little more, but so does everybody else. And you have to take that into kind of, into contest. It's obviously something that we need to examine. And if you want more tools that we do have a free premium tool, obviously no baseball, PGA Top Golfers tool is free today. That is one of my favorites, at least. You can check in, and we've certainly got plenty of others with its ownership projections. No reason not to check out the PGA Top Golfers today as well. You already said it's a puck night. Promo code crosscheck. If you want just a weekly pass, you want to give NHL a try, $3. A $3 pass. Awesemo Plus NHL Weekly expires on October 18th, but you're going to get all that ownership projections, that shows everything that we're doing there. I don't know a ton about hockey, but probably something with power plays and all the things that you need to do. I believe there's correlation when building that. No better time. $3. What do you have to lose? Honestly, get in, give it a shot. If it's not for you, you've lost nothing. So really excited to see things. It's good to see hockey back on ESPN. As we move down, though, we've talked about the big guys. Let's just sum it up like this. A, if you could only play one, who would it be? And B, how often are you doubling up north of 10?
I had to play one. I would play Justin Thomas, obviously.
Agree.
I think I can do Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth and be all right with it. I like Rory. It's not that I don't. It's just everybody else likes him too. And so for me, it's finding out paths to get different, because this is a no-cut field event. And, Jordan Spieth is bound to putt well at least one or two rounds where it could get really scary. And same can be said for Rory, where if he flips the putter, it can get scary too. So I'm not really that concerned about either of them. I think they both play well in this event, but I think it's going to be easier for me just in terms of the plays that I like a little bit lower, avoiding some of the ownership and just siding more with the Spieth side.
Fair enough. I think that kind of sums it up nicely. There's definitely options if you want to go north of 10 twice. But if you don't and you want to go balanced, or you just want a guy in the nines, you've got options. You've got Hovland, you've got Burns, Brooks is here, Tony Finau, the winner from last week in Sanjay, Decky, Usti, Cam Smith, Answer, and Scotty Scheffler, who was cut last week. We see a lot more recent form here. The majority of these guys outside Finau have played. It's still only either 2 or 4 rounds of golf, though. I don't really care about it. I don't think it's a bad thing. But what say you about the nines?
So Sam Burns is good, right?
Sam Burns is trending towards just being justifiably this good. Yes.
Okay, cool. I wanted to double check that because that's back-to-back weeks. Again, I don't know how he finished 14th last week. Oh, I guess the reason is that he's now lost strokes gained putting back-to-back events. That just tells me he is a stripe show. The guy is an absolute stripe show right now. I'm going to just continue to keep rolling it, because when he does flip the putter, he's going to be untouchable. Well, okay, that's absurd to say. You got Justin Thomas, you got Colin Morikawa, you got some other decent ball strikers in this field, but there's nobody probably hitting the ball better on planet Earth than Sam Burns. I mean, it's off the tee, it's with the irons. He gained 8.3. That's an unsustainable number, but 2.8 still at the Shriners, top 15, back-to-back putting weeks that weren't good, and yet he's going first and 14th. There's no way that I would not be over the field on a number like 11.6%. For a guy that's just being, for all intents and purposes, the best informed player in this field.
Not going to push back. He's playing great. I still think that there's other guys to me. Maybe it's just a block, and he's been good. He's justified it. Hovland, man, right next to him.
I know.
What a bizarre situation at the Shriners. Hovland gained over 5 strokes off the tee and with the approach, but he lost 9 strokes around the green. I don't know if he was just like, I didn't watch it, so maybe he was just like chipping into the woods, into the lakes. I don't know. It just
do know he had the chip yips for years, right?
I do, but
you won a U.S. Amateur where he bladed a chip shot over a green that was like the most straightforward chip shot I've ever seen in my life.
Maybe those are coming back. He was never great around the green, but he was markedly improved last year. And I worry about that, but at the same time, you can't doubt that type of ball striking. This guy can score. He's an elite tee to green player. I think he's a fine starting point, but I want to ask you about Finau, who finally kind of broke through. We knew it was going to happen, and he did win the Northern Trust. I think it's going to be a catalyst to really good things. The form is not, it's been all over the place, up and down. Haven't seen him. Does that mean he's sneaky, or does that mean there's too much risk?
I think he's probably sneaky is the right way to put it. I'm not crazy about him. I can already tell from your tone and setting me up. We've done enough shows together where I can tell when you're on a guy and I'm not. because there's like a little bit of like you knew that I wasn't going to be
I'm
completely
trying to
there,
incept you.
and I can tell that you want to sell him to me. So go ahead, give me the used car salesman pitch.
I mean, I really, again, it might not make for the best content in the world, but it's just a simple fact that I think out of sight, out of mind, and people in this swing season really look for, oh, I just played this guy. Oh, this guy just played Tony Finau. No one is thinking about him. No one is talking about him. It doesn't mean he's going to be low owned per se, but he's just there. And I look at his skill set. The guy's a player. He's very, very good off the tee. He can score, elite scorer, and the form is very erratic. So, we talk about this a lot with certain players. He's a spike putter. And what I mean by that, he's not an elite putter, but when he is, he gains a ton. And when he's not, he loses a ton. And just the perfect example is his last 2 tournaments. He gained 6 strokes putting at the BMW. He followed it up. He lost 4 at the Tour Championship. Those are both massive, massive numbers in either direction. I like guys like that in a tournament setting, in a GPP setting. Give me Tony Finau. I think you could even start some lineups with him.
See, that's where I just needed to host for a second there, because I knew that you'd be able to sell him more than me. For me, it's not even that I haven't seen him in a while, because I think if we remember back to him playing well, he won the Northern Trust. That was that grind fest against Cameron Smith then in the playoff. And then he went to the next event, and that was just the biggest shootout of all time. And it was kind of a 2-man show. Everybody else didn't really matter. And then you get to the Tour Championship, and it's so hard to really make up ground because you're already put into a certain placement. And there's certain guys. Kevin Na was the one that, you try to find 1 or 2 guys, and everybody else is pretty much uninterested. Guy like Tony Finau, what's he going to accomplish there? It's just not much that's going to change. Was decent enough at the Ryder Cup. And I think coming into this event, I mean, for me, it just comes down to, it's not like he's getting no attention. I mean, there's guys now a little bit lower. I mean, not Louis, but Hideki. We can just talk about Hideki at 9,400. I would much rather play for 200 less Hideki at 7.6% than Finau for double the ownership.
That's a fair case. I'm not going to push back on Hideki. He was not good at Shriners at all. He lost across the board, but he's just a player. Now the putter he's lost in 6 of 7, stretching back almost to July, but he's still a guy that can get crazy, crazy hot. I like Finau. I like Hovland. I don't know exactly what to do with Scheffler. I do think it's an interesting buy spot because people will overreact. But right now, currently, it looks like there's not a ton of jumping off the ship. He's still in the teens ownership wise in terms of our projections.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's this whole 9K range is very, very interesting because, like, for me, I do want to get up. We talked at the top of this show about how important it is to get 1 through 6 and get some of those top end placement points, just because it's so different from, 10th and behind or 20th and behind for sure. But Louis Oosthuizen, I absolutely love. I absolutely want to throw up thinking about playing him as the most owned golfer in the entire 9K range. I mean, that I did not expect coming into today, coming off of yesterday, where that was a lot more muted. That kind of gives me some reason for pause, but I like the Scotty Scheffler play quite a bit. He's right there at about the same number. I just know it's going to be lower than 15% coming off of an atrocious outing. He burned a lot of people. 74-67. We have to be able to write off individual rounds of golf. If you get in a habit of just saying that he is playing well or he is playing bad, you are doing golf analysis wrong. Everybody plays bad on a single given day, a single outcome. It could be one shot. It could just be something wasn't working that day. I'm always willing to write it off, especially for a guy who outside of his putter is pretty consistent at being good across the board.
So again, this is not the end all be all, but just to illustrate that point, Scotty Scheffler, his last 2 missed cuts when he played the next week, he missed the cut at the Farmers. He came in 7th at Waste Management the following week. He missed the cut at the Charles Schwab. He came in 3rd at the Memorial. Like, the guy can bounce back. These are elite players. The miscut means literally nothing. It doesn't mean he's just going to bounce back automatically, but I do think that he makes a lot of sense at flat 9. So you've got some good options there. Let's keep it working down. We get to the mid-range here. We've got guys like Fleetwood, Webb, Leishman, who's played better than anyone in this small sample of the swing season, 2 pair of top 5s, Hatton, Paul Casey. I like Adam Scott a lot. What say you as maybe your 2nd or 3rd golfer in?
I like Adam Scott down at the bottom. That was the one guy I knew we'd probably agree on. That was where I kind of flag planted a little bit yesterday. Under 7%. Driving has really been his bugaboo here of late, and this golf course looks like it's going to neutralize it. And if you give me a neutralized Adam Scott right now, for whatever reason, I don't know the reason, but his putter's been stupid good. And we want to try to identify that time because his strokes gain approach will almost always be positive. He's just one of the premier ball strikers on planet Earth. So driver neutralized, that's been just his Achilles heel, which is so weird for the last year and a half, but that's a fact. Give me all the Adam Scott underneath 7%.
I'm with you. This is a guy, veteran guy. I feel like a lot of times needs just to get some reps, and he looked pretty good actually at the Shriners. He did make the cut, got a couple extra rounds. He's 70-1 in the outright market. I don't mind that number, but I also think when you're guaranteed 4 rounds, he's a very safe play relative to the ownership. Whereas Patrick Reed, I think it's just a credit to our chat. No joke. I think they identified this quickly. Patrick Reed, I think the risk is too much for DFS. He's a good bet though. If you want to bet him, he's the type of guy who goes out and wins randomly. But when you're talking, you can get him at 80-1 out there. To me, that's better because he's the type of guy, I think he has bottom 10 equity in terms of really imploding if he doesn't have it. There's a lot of risk if you click Reed's name this week.
I will have 0% Patrick Reed.
I tend to agree with that. I think, again, when you have the win equity that he does, I always get making a case, but Scott, Casey, Hatton, Leishman, Fleetwood, all these guys I would have above him this week. So
can we talk about one facet that I don't think we've ever
please.
Talked about, but this is the kind of thing where you need to not have FOMO about a guy like Patrick Reed, because what are the opportunities? I'm just playing out the golf tournament in my head. Live betting is a thing in a lot of states. If you have live betting that you can go actively do, what are the scenarios where Patrick Reed's current form aren't going to have him getting very nice dog money in the event that he plays the first 2 rounds really well?
Also a good point. I mean, Patrick Reed, there's the most likely scenario is that he's never in the golf tournament. He's lost across the board at the Shriners, and he was terrible at the Tour Championship as well. So most likely you don't need to do anything with him. If he starts fast, if he's lurking and you want to get some exposure, go ahead. If you want to throw him on your outright card early, I think that's fine. Obviously, it's a small allocation at 80-1, but to me at flat 8, you would be better served finding the extra couple bucks for these guys that are either in form or at this point, honestly, I think they're just simply better right now.
Yeah, if live betting wasn't a thing, if I didn't have the ability to invest in him after the fact, I would maybe be like, oh, I need to have a little bit. I don't need to have any. I don't feel like it's there. I feel like it's kind of chasing a guy. Is he better than an 8K player when he's healthy, when he's not coming off of double pneumonia, whatever the hell that is? It's definitely, it's double the pleasure, double the fun, I'm assuming, of regular pneumonia. But Patrick Reed, 8K, yeah, he's better than that in a normal event, but this is not normal. This is extenuating circumstances for him. One of the easier write-offs that I can remember for just about any player in any of these no-cut events that's actually a name player, I can't make any case for him, especially knowing that if he gets into contention, he's going to be a dog to anybody. And I just mean anybody, include like DJ, Justin Thomas, Colin Morikawa. He'd have to be leading this golf tournament by 3 or 4 shots to be clear of a number where you wouldn't be able to bet him after the fact.
No doubt. So looking, and again, ownership can change. You want to keep an eye on it. But right now, of all the players north of $7,000, of all of them, the lowest owned is Tommy Fleetwood, sub 5%. He's getting absolutely no love out there. He has not played great golf. There's been some struggles. A question, is it a hit the reset button? Because the guy didn't have a top 20 over here since Wells Fargo. It's been quite a while. What do you do with him? Or do you say, let other people chase it?
I'll let other people chase it. I'm assuming you might be in that camp of other people. 8,800 is a misprice. He flip-flop him and Patrick Reed, or flip-flop him and Aaron Wise, yeah, boy. I think we could elevate him up there. 8,800. It's just bad. I don't know what I'm kind of missing out on by skipping him. There's no question that once upon a time, this was a guy that you could just rely on to be striping it. But lately, it's just not there. I'm going to be waiting on him. And, if this is the week that he burns me, so be it. But across the board, I mean, it's off the tee, it's approach, it's strokes gained putting. Last 50 round data is egregious for him. It makes every sense that he's the lowest owned out of this entire range.
Hard to argue with that. He has been, the only thing I'll say is he has been better in Europe, but I have it on pretty good authority that this tournament isn't in Europe, so that doesn't really
It's
help.
crazy. Shoot.
Let's keep going down. We crash into the 7K range. You've got Rose and Homa, Sergio. I want to talk about Joaquin Niemann and Aaron Wise, both at 7,400. Maverick and HV3, both at 7,300. Hoffman and Gooch, both at 7,200. A lot of pairings right here that are very interesting. Where are your eyes fixated on in this 7K range?
I mean, I normally just play Maverick McNeely blindly, but now I heard that it's his home golf course. And now people might be clicking there more. That's unfortunate because, again, I don't give a shit that it's his home golf course. Same thing for Colin Morikawa. I don't care. If this were a club championship and, you're playing against whomever, maybe it matters. This is the best players in the world who had 3 days of prep. It's going to come down to making putts. Spoiler alert. That's how it normally works out. But Maverick McNeely, he's fine. I like Taylor Gooch a lot. Our unofficial world golf rankings, he's just somebody that I've taken note of quite a bit. So if you head to Awesemo and you check that out, it's basically the guys behind the paywall. We've got Steve Buzzard, Alex Baker, yourself, everybody trying to put correct data for the players rather than the world golf ranking, which for, whatever, it's terrible. It's awful, but he's number 37 there. He's number 70 in the world. He's a much, much better player than this price tag. I get it's a fantastic field. You want to see it a little bit more, but man, looking at his data, it's just, he seems like a guy stroke can approach sixth out of this entire field in his last 50 rounds. That's an easy click for me at 7,200 with, not nearly enough ownership.
I think you make a very good case there. That is a tool that you can look into for macro buys. And Taylor Gooch has shown that he as a player can get crazy hot on the approach. It's hard to push back on Niemann. People are saying, this guy, he makes cuts, but the upside has really not been there. And that's true. But this is the perfect example of what I was saying earlier. Even in the Shriners, he wasn't great. He made 20 birdies still. He is a pure scorer. This guy almost is a lock for 20 birdies. And yeah, maybe he doesn't have it here and there, but I really do like that. I think he's primed to outscore his placement points. He is the same price though as Aaron Wise, who clearly, I was first to market on him because I was the only person stupid enough to hang on. It looks like Aaron Wise has found form though, being serious. He's really had a good stretch here. Guy hasn't missed a cut in quite a while. 8th at Shriners, gained across the board, gained with the putter in 2 of 3. Aaron Wise is a player. I've always believed that. I do think he's in play once again.
I don't even remember what my take was on Aaron Wise. Maybe I don't think we really talked about him. I think I probably saved it for you because I attached the two of you together. You know that I'm marrying into an Oregon family. The guy won NCAA tournament at Oregon.
Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert. Whoa. Yeah, he looks pretty good. How about them Ducks, baby?
How about my I almost said San Diego. Jesus, my Los Angeles Chargers ticket right now. How's that looking? Looking pretty nice. I feel pretty okay with that. Different show. But I think that, Aaron Wise is a great play. There's nothing I'm going to push back. People said Sergio Garcia there. I will have no Sergio Garcia. I do not like Sergio Garcia at 12.1%. I would much rather play C Woo at 7,600. I'd rather play Max Home at 7,700. They are almost half the ownership. The Sergio thing, I just don't get. I don't get it.
I can speak from someone that plays Sergio more often than most. He's an elite driver of the ball, but I do think he's more suited for winning scores of, 12 to 15 under. And he's just not a guy that's going to traditionally roll him in at all. And here you got to keep pace by making putts. So I worry about that with Sergio. I do like Wise. I'm worried that he's going to be pretty damn popular because the price is really flat right now. You've got him, you've got Niemann, you've got Maverick, you've got HV3, a lot of mixing and matching. I know that a popular build will have a couple of these guys in the same lineup, and I think that's totally fine.
And they should probably, even Charlie Hoffman, we didn't talk about him. And we know the kind of iron upside that can exist from him. It hasn't been there as pronounced of late, but I'm willing to be taking some shots in large field stuff. But as far as like some small field stuff, Gooch, I'm just going to be relying on a bunch. Aaron Wise, I absolutely love him as well. It's going to be interesting. I do have to ask you just because, I think we're required by law to talk about him every show. Kevin Na, can I interest you in him at all?
Not really, to be honest.
Okay.
And it's mostly a product of Kevin Na is not noticeably lower owned than anyone else.
That's
in the
fair.
range, and his stats just don't line up at all. If you were telling me he's 2% and everyone else is 15%, I'd say, okay, you got 7.5x leverage there. I'll take that. Sure, I'll roll the dice. I think that's pretty unnecessary when I can go get Scott for similar ownership, Homa, these type of guys. I just like them better.
Okay. I mean, it just comes down to, 2 years ago, you saw him go berserk in Vegas, and
He
in
can
my
do it.
brain, he can go low in some of these tournaments. Sony Open, another one that he ended up taking down back in January at the beginning of the season. And, we really saw him. If there was one guy that I made a stand on at the Tour Championship and actually got paid from, it was Kevin Na. A top 5 there was just such a nice number to get. Immaculate short game. We know he does it differently. You talk about that quite a bit, and Kevin Na does it a little bit differently, but just insane amount of putting upside every single time he I wanted to say touch the felt. I don't know why. It's putting. It's just touching the putting green. It's ridiculous how good he can be with that club from time to time. I think I want to take some shots just out of FOMO, but didn't know if you actually made a stand on him or not.
It also comes down to always how many lineups you're playing. Like if I was building, I'll be honest, football, other things, I'm not building my full volume of traditional golf. So I don't have as much room for those type of players. If you're making a full portfolio, having 5% of Kevin Na or something, I think is totally reasonable, but he is certainly not a priority. But in that same vein, let me ask you this real quick. Alex Noren, traditionally in Europe and lately here, has been a putting machine. The last time he lost strokes putting was back at the PGA. Really, really strong end to the season for him in the FedEx Cup. Do you use him as maybe someone that you could pair with Na and with Spieth and those type of guys in lineups, or do you say, you know what, I'm not going to mess around with that guy?
Yeah, we love him. And I had chat, somebody actually in chat, if they're here today, let me know. But somebody in chat just was like, what do you think about Noren? And I hadn't really even clearly thought about him. You brought him up. What was it? It was like in Fort Wayne or something. It was like the Byron Nelson or something of that regard. It looked really nice through 36 holes and it kind of fell apart, but definitely in the last 50 rounds amongst everybody else here in this golf tournament, Alex Noren, number 1 in putting. It's hard to deny when you get a guaranteed 4 rounds out of a guy who can just light it up in that kind of a capacity that you don't want to have a little bit. So Alex Noren was somebody that got brought up to me in chat. The problem for me is I just like Russell Henley and Taylor Gooch so much. Just $100 more and then at the exact same number. But Alex Noren is definitely a part of my portfolio this week.
Yeah, I think that's really what you're doing in the slower sevens is priority rankings. Because you can't get all these guys. It's also skill set rankings to me. If you're going ball striking, I would have Taylor Gooch, Henley, even Wise to an extent ahead of these guys. But if you're going for more well-rounded or short games, certainly Noren, I think, could get the edge in those type of lineups, and along with Maverick, who's another notoriously good putter.
He's so good. I just wish it wasn't his freaking home course. I don't know why people care. Stop caring.
Last guy, a true unknown. What do you do with Jason Day?
Oh, I just thank God you didn't say Cameron Tringali. I don't even.
He's a known.
Yeah, no, and I don't want to. Jason Day, I have a little bit more than the 4%, but not by much. It makes sense. We can turn it on randomly from time to time. It got better towards the end of the summer, middle of the summer. He ended up having that issue at the Travelers where he looked like he was hobbled, but that's kind of the way every golf tournament of Jason Day looks. I'm okay having a little bit. I'm not enthusiastic about it, but you're going to give me Jason Day under 5%. I'm going to play it every single time. I tried to make it a thing before he had the kid at Memorial, and then he withdrew after the golf tournament started. Those were not good times.
No, they weren't. I think it's pretty simple with him. If you're willing to take the risk, you could get paid off immensely. Most likely you'll be burned by those shares, and that's okay. That's why he's 4%. Tringali would be the safer option. Other guys in that range, Noren, Henley, the guys we just talked about, immensely safer. Jason Day is a wild card across all, whether you're talking about his health, the state of his game, where he's been. I don't know the answers to that. I don't think anybody does.
I don't think Jason Day does.
No, it week to week, we see that. He's just that type of player right now. But
would you bet him?
So I think it's a really good question. I see the exact angle you're talking about. I still think the answer is probably no. I'd rather back him at 9-1 for a top 10.
Okay, that's what I saw. I mean, I was kind of looking at that. I was even thinking about 20 to 1 in the event that he just went completely nuts. You get paid 20 to 1 on $50 and you move on with your day or something like
Yeah.
that regard. I think he'd be a good scatter shot for that.
Yeah, he would be a good candidate for my guy I'm playing that you shouldn't, but I don't even think I'm going to play him. So I can't even put him in there. It's
You're a
that bad.
respectful individual. Well, actually, no, you're a man of honor, is what you
I
are.
am. I do the best I can, my friends. And I do want to say, if you guys, and I know a lot of you do, and I know a lot of you have been over there, if you are into some betting content, not just for golf, but for the NFL, for college football, really for anything, for the NBA with player props coming up, head over to Awesemo Odds YouTube channel. It is worth it. Channel is growing quickly. Me, Eric, Matt, Josh, the whole team. We're really putting up a ton of content, quick, easy VODs, giving you some numbers, telling you where to take advantage of some of these sports books that are offering great promos. If you're in a state and you're looking to make some extra bucks, it's not the worst idea to go over there, subscribe, and just give us a try. We're having a lot of fun over there, in addition to our, of course, main channel here at the Awesemo DFS handle. But we got about 5-10 minutes left. Let's get to the cheapies because you may need them here. Where are you going in the sixes? How comfortable do you feel? And my God, Ricky Fowler is at 6,400.
Yeah, sponsors invite Ricky Fowler.
The only way he can get in.
I have it because he's garbage and you shouldn't play him, but I bet you are.
Maybe.
Okay, cool. We'll not talk about that yet, but I like EVR and Brian Harmon coming in, but then the ownership updated and it became the two most popular plays underneath 7K. So outside of Jonathan Vegas, who we'll talk about as well. But I just love, and don't laugh at me, but I love Patton Kazire here. I think that he's going to be somebody that I try to rely on quite a bit. Has been abysmal the last 2 times out, but he started off so hot in these first rounds. Then he shot 78 and 74 in the second round of both of those golf tournaments. I think if you get him in a no cut where he's not just trying to make cuts and do something here, there might be an angle where he's kind of the candidate where you get a guaranteed 4 rounds of golf, you get a guaranteed paycheck, and he can just turn it on. So I'm thinking Patton Kazire. It has looked really, really brutal in the box score, but it's 2 really nice rounds amplified by 2 really abysmal rounds. Maybe in the course of 4, you say, oh, well, he's going to at least have 1 bad one. I'm willing to just take my shots on it for a guy that I think from a putting aspect has some upside.
No doubt about it. I actually think that that's an underrated thing. To me, I'd much rather have a guy shoot 65, 75 than 70, 70. I think it shows they're more on the cusp. Certainly for this format, there's no question, because Patton Kazire, and we've seen this, look at the game log, he doesn't get the luxury of getting Saturday and Sunday because his blow-up round came on Friday. Your blow-up round comes on Friday here, you move on and you have to claw back, but you still get 36 more holes to score. And he could be a candidate with the way he can putt. I almost said putt the ball, but just putt in general. The guy can score. There's no doubt about it. He should be somewhat helped off the tee, and I do like that. What I do want to ask you about Gary Woodland, though. He's another guy. When I saw his name down here, I thought, man, he's underpriced. The more I dug in, though, I don't think he's underpriced. His game is just really not doing much lately.
And God, I can't remember when it was. Who was it that brought him up to me? Somebody had brought up Gary Woodland to me on Awesemo, like somebody that we work with. I can't remember who it was.
Not me.
No, I know it was not you, but he was like starting to turn form around, played well at the 3M, had some signs of life, even earlier this spring and summer, but then the Memorial happened. That was bad. Rocket Mortgage, the Open, bad. Everything really, really bad at Sanderson Farms. I'm not going to do it. And Godspeed if you want to try to take the shot. He's won a major in the last 3 years. Not many guys under 7K who have won majors in the last 3 years. Ricky Fowler has however many top 5s at majors that he had in a row 3 or 4 years ago. But as far as players underneath 7K, he just sticks out as a name that should be higher priced than what he is, but his form is just abysmal.
Yeah, you got Keegan Bradley and Charles, noted major winner Charles Schwartzel at 6,100.
Masters winner Charles Schwartzel.
There's not a ton down here, of course. These guys are in spotty form. I do think what you want to do is separate. You've got guys like Johnny Vegas, really good driver of the ball, good approach, can't putt at all. You've got Patton Kazire and Harmon, as you've talked about, really good putters. Tom Hollywood Hoagie, anyone? I think he's probably a little overmatched in this type of field. I did kind of like him at Shriners, though, and he found a way to really turn it around with the putter. That was the only thing that really changed. I don't know if he can sustain that for another week.
Ring around the rosy, pocket full of hoagie. Yeah, ashes, you all fall down. Don't do it.
Good show.
Don't do it.
Okay. What
that was
about
on the fly too? You're welcome.
So we've been joking around a little bit with Ricky, but we should break him down.
Mm-hmm.
He scores. I'm going to give the positives. Even when he struggles, he scores. He makes a lot of mistakes and he makes a lot of birdies. So I do think he's going to outscore his placement points. The problem is, if he comes in 60, is he just so bad that it's not going to matter? And he was obviously not able to do that at Shriners. At the same time, he did shoot 4 under. I don't want to give the impression that he was awful there. He just didn't make the cut. So I think he's playable. I absolutely do. Am I blinded by my noted rose-colored perception of Ricky?
Yes, you are. You absolutely are. So again, some of these shootout golf tournaments, and 72-66, it wasn't that bad. He shoots 1 over the first day and then, puts together a nice round 500 there. You have a number of ways that you can look at that. Sure. And, we saw that the BMW or earlier this year, it's like, just because you didn't play well in that event or, compared to everybody else doesn't mean that you played poorly. Just everybody else went super, super low. That's kind of the way that golf tournament sets up. But Ricky Fowler, I don't know, 2.8%, maybe you can have a little bit, but it's just been so atrocious. I think going to a guy like Keith Mitchell, going to Brian Harmon, EVR even, Patton Gazire is my guy that I'm preferring the most in the range. You're just giving up quite a bit. And Ricky Fowler always does have the name recognition thing where he always ends up getting clicked on just a little bit more than what you expect him to. I felt that way about him last week too. So 6,400, it's obviously a super low tag. Obviously, he works well in certain builds. I think he'd be a kind of guy, if I wanted to put him together, it would be like this around the green crew of like him, Kevin Na, piecing together a couple of like-minded players just in the event that, maybe the wind kicks up out of the middle of nowhere on Saturday or Sunday or something happens where you just need to be scrambling a little bit more than what we think. But for the most part, I just don't see it.
Fair enough. He also, Cam Davis is right there. Cam Davis, tee to green was really good last week, just couldn't putt. And I think you're going to see that with a lot of these guys. So I like Ricky more than you do. I also just think the range is pretty wide open. There's not a direct leverage point in my mind. Like Benny Yon is down here. Talk about notable bad putters. Last time Benny Yon gained putting. The Amex in January.
Hold up. We got Brandon Grace down here too. We didn't talk about him. He's a good play.
You like him?
I do like Brandon Grace. 6,500. That seems pretty low for Brandon Grace. I hadn't even made note of him in the last 2 shows here. Second at Wyndham, didn't play well.
He's been in Europe.
He's been in Europe, but Brandon Grace, 6,500 just feels like a low number for him.
I have no problem. I mean, traditionally, I think maybe this is an overrated narrative that Brandon Grace is, US Open, wind, really brutal conditions. That's not necessarily true. I don't think he's a terrific scorer by any stretch, but he's still a player. He has been in Europe playing pretty quality golf over there. I think that's a fine call. Really, for me, I'm not going to worry about the 6K range. I'm going to build as if I have 5 golfers in my lineups, and wherever I need to land in the 6s, I will have a guy. There are enough players that I say, okay, I can live with this guy anchoring my lineups and giving me at least a chance if I love my other 5.
God, Gary Woodland is going to be your guy I'm playing.
It's going to be Ricky.
Oh, it's going to be Ricky for sure. Okay.
Yeah. I give people a little sneak peek behind glass. And if you want to see that and more, you can follow me at JazzRaz DFS at Eric Lindquist. Handles are right there. If there's a guy we didn't get to, hop in premium Slack. We have it. You can use the promo code. It's right on the screen. PGA Live before lock, Awesemo plus platinum, 25% off that first month. No reason. It's going to get you everything that you guys want from sport to sport, from all the tools that Alex Baker and the whole team here use. Now, it's best time of the show. Time to hit the like button as it always is, and we appreciate that. But it's hot take season. I honestly don't even remember what I said last week. I don't think it was good, though. What say you here? Hot takes.
So Taylor Gooch, top 10s, but you can't bet him. He's 5-1 to top 10 in this golf.
That's
tournament.
bad.
It is a bad number to be getting on him, but that just further emphasizes my point where he's a lot better than what I think the public perception of him is. But yeah, there's certain numbers that you just can't bring it into effect and talk about. But for what?
I remembered what I shouldn't have even laughed because now I remember what my hot take was last week. It was too hot. Troy Merritt had a lot of issues. He played better on Friday, but that was just a giant mistake on my part.
35-1, 35-1. Patton Kazire, top 5, lock it in.
Okay. Before I get to mine and chat, we love yours. Feel free to drop them in there or drop in the comments. Friend of the show, Evan, I hope you are right, my friend. Hot take Kentucky beats Georgia. That would be fantastic. I do not think that's going to happen, but I do like Kentucky with the points. My hot take, I'm just going to go to the outright market. I think that honestly, Adam Scott has a real chance at 70-1. Again, when it's 70-1, you know what you're getting into, but this is a guy, he's certainly a proven winner on tour. He's got the irons. He's got the putting. He can take the strain off the tee at this course. It's very forgiving. What's not to like with Adam Scott this week? So he is on my betting card at 70-1. That is a good number for him, and I think for everyone. So on that note, my friends, special shout out to Monkey Knife Fight. Thanks once again for sponsoring the show. And thanks for you guys hanging out with us. You make swing season that much more fun. We appreciate it. Good luck this week. Talk to you guys again next week. Same time, same place.